For more on this, Keir Dougall joins us now. He's the CBS News legal contributor. Hey, Keir, good to see you. So what's the basis of Trump's appeal to halt this DOJ review of documents that they took from Mar-a-Lago?
So the concern here is over who is going to be looking at these documents. In the typical case, the Justice Department does this. Here, the Justice Department was authorized by the search warrant, but because we're talking about the former president, his claim is that an independent third-party special master should be the body, the person who's reviewing these records and separating them into the buckets, perhaps for privilege, perhaps for executive privilege, and for a classification review. So that's the basic claim.
And I think all eyes are on Attorney General Merrick Garland and what is he going to do? So what are some of those potential landmines that he may be facing in deciding whether or not to prosecute the former president?
Right. So first of all, we need to say that the President Trump may never be, he might never be prosecuted. But the issues for Attorney General Garland, I think, the landmines perhaps, are at 100,000 feet, balancing concerns about the rule of law against concerns about the appearance of political bias, which is also driving this document review issue. So in a nation of laws, even a former president who's committed crimes should expect to be prosecuted. But here it's difficult, I think, to separate the prosecutor from any potential indictment. And so you would have a scenario where the current administration would be prosecuting a former administration. So I think that Attorney General Garland here will be looking for, before making any decision, will be looking for extremely high quality evidence, which is something that is a bit of an art among prosecutors. You know, you can bring you can have evidence that would technically satisfy a case, but, you know, let's remember what caused President Richard Nixon to resign. It was hours and hours of tapes, very high quality evidence that led to his resignation and pardon. I would think that the Attorney General here would want, just as a matter of proof and as a matter of satisfying the public, to have extremely high quality evidence here, not necessarily tapes, but not just, you know, a single witness.
And Keir, going back to this investigation as it stands, of course, the former president had asked for a so-called special master, this kind of third party, to review these documents. The DOJ and lawyers for President Trump, former President Trump, have submitted each of their picks for that special master late last week. Can you give us a take on some of the names submitted? Who are they, and anyone that stands out?
Yes. So they all appear to be qualified by judicial and or prosecutorial experience. But the name that jumped out to me was President Trump's candidate, Judge Raymond J. Dearie. Among the candidates, he is the only active judge. That's one reason why he stuck out for me. And the other reason is that I have tried 2 criminal jury cases in front of Judge Dearie in his courtroom. And I can assure our audience that Judge Dearie is fair, he's smart, he is apolitical, and he will take nonsense from absolutely no one. And because he was former President Trump's pick, were the DOJ to agree to him, it would take away potential arguments by the former president if Judge Dearie were to make rulings that the former president didn't like, because after all, Judge Dearie would have been his pick, the president's pick. So I would recommend that the Justice Department accept Judge Dearie pronto.
Well, Keir, this is why we're glad that you are an analyst for us. You have this experience firsthand. I do want to ask a little bit about the January 6th investigation, because a grand jury has subpoenaed several associates of the former president in connection to the DOJ's investigation into January 6th. Why are these subpoenas significant?
So these are subpoenas to relatively high-level officials, as reported, one to Stephen Miller, senior policy advisor, another to a White House political director. So they're signaling a couple of things. One, that the Justice Department's investigation is not at the beginning. the standard playbook is to start at the bottom end and work your way to the top. These subpoenas, as reported, reflect witnesses who are at closer to the top. Reportedly, they are involved with the fundraising between the election and the inauguration, based upon the stolen election claims, the incorrect stolen election claims, and also about the fake electors scheme that we've heard about from the January 6th Commission. So these are important subpoenas. They signal an active Justice Department investigation.
All right, Keir Dougall, a lot to unpack with these investigations, a lot to analyze here, and a lot more to come. We're grateful to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin.